Coming up, the Broncos pull off a miracle. Who won the Challenge Cup final? And the Eels slip past the Raiders. Yes, hello and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, a one-stop shop for rugby league. Dylan Mark Hendry again this week as Connor, well, let's just say, has temporarily resigned because I have become victorious in the Challenge Cup in the Sideline Chat co-host cup, as I'll get onto earlier, but you could tell from there. Jokes aside, he should be back next week for a special State of Origin game number 1 preview. Yes, we're only a week away for game number 1, and the teams have been announced. Who's in the team? Well, do I mention it later on the podcast, or do we wait till next week? I'll leave you some suspense right there. So not many games in round 13 this week because of State of Origin, and we are heading into some buys this week. But we do have the Thursday night game between the Gold Coast Titans and the North Queensland Cowboys. Now we'll start off with the away side. Jason Taumalolo is back, which is a big booster, as Valentine Holmes, Ruben Cotter, Tom Dearden, and Jermaine Nanai are all out on Origin duty. Murray Tulagi and Hamaso Tibuai have also are away on Origin duty, but they have been released to play for this weekend. So that puts the hammer into the centres to take Valentine Holmes' place, with Brennan Elliott coming on to the wing, and Ben Hampton is the new 5'8". Cohen Hess is moving from the lock position to prop, with Heelan Luki going into the starting side in the second row, with Connolly Lemilu joining the bench. Now, as for the home side, Fast Sulamo Ailey is out due to Origin duty. So Dave Fafita is also out after aggravating his knee against Brisbane. Mo Fodawaker is back from ankle injury at prop, and Isaac Leah goes to lock to fill the gap left by Fast Sulamar Howie. Now, let's start off back with the Cowboys with their game on the weekend. They went down heavily to the Penrith Panthers, 22-0. It was a little bit disappointing to see that the Cowboys did not get any points on the board, considering where they are on the ladder. But overall, it is against Penrith. Penrith has absolutely dominated the match, left, right, and centre. But hey, it was I could say, I'm going to say a reality check there for the Cowboys. They have been flying high so far this year. They are sitting third on the ladder at the moment, but they're still within touching distance of Melbourne in second. So, and still realistically, Penrith, depending on how well everyone goes during the Origin period, which could really turn a lot of team seasons around. But we have to wait and see there for that one there. The Cowboys were, like I said, very disappointing indeed. They didn't show up, made a lot of errors, and they just weren't themselves really. But they did miss Kyle Felt and Jason Taumalolo. That could have been all for it there. So as for Penrith, the try scores of Isaiah on the second minute. His try was just straight into a gap from the Cowboys, which is not good enough for him. Well, not good enough defense there from the Cowboys, not to their standard anyway, especially against the top side, against the Penrith Panthers. You can't do that. If you want to contain the Panthers, you have to be solid in defense, and they certainly didn't do that there. Now, Dylan Edwards was the second try. Brian Toto and also Taylor May with Cleary getting 3 out of 4 goals converted, with the score being 16-0 at halftime. So Cowboys really in the second half did better than what they did in the first, by only letting Penrith score 1 try in the second half. But it was too little too late from then. So all over and done with realistically by half time. Connor, hasn't given me much, but due to his uni assignments, his final push for his uni assignments, I can understand why. So pretty much all you hear on the wrap-ups is me doing my view realistically. But his standout for the Penrith Panthers was James Fisher-Harris with 221 metres, 2 tackle breaks, and 18 hit-ups. That is a lot of hit-ups there from James Fisher-Harris. Thoroughly deserved. He did have a not quite game, sorry. He did have a good game. He could have, I think he could have scored a try, but obviously he didn't get the opportunity to score there. Now, for the opposition for the North Queensland Cowboys of Gold Coast Titans, they also went down on the second Friday game to the Brisbane Broncos, 35 points to 24. Wow. When I say a miracle in the opening, this was an absolute miracle. Gold Coast were up 24 points to 4 at half time over Brisbane. But they just collapsed in the second half, and Broncos heavily capitalized on that, running in 5 unanswered tries in the second half. That is unbelievable. So brilliant effort there from Brisbane to come back. Kind of standout performance for Brisbane Broncos was Herbie Farnworth with 1 try, 1 try assist, 161 run meters, 10 tackle breaks, and 2 offloads there. Yeah, good effort there by Farnworth. He's yet again showing that he is a good young gun coming through the Broncos system up there, and he's a star in the waiting for there, so he will be there long term, I believe. Also along Herbie Farnworth's try, there was Selwyn Cobbo, Tamari Martin, Jordan Ricky, Kurt Capel, and Ezra Mam, who scored on his first try in his second ever NRL match. So congratulations to him. Katoni Staggs getting 5 from 6 goals, with Tyson Gamble getting a 78th minute field goal, and Jordan Ricky also in the sin bin on the 7th minute. Speaking of sin bins, Gold Coast Titans, they were down to 11 men at one stage as Sam McIntyre and SN Masters were both in the bin very close in proximity to each other. So McIntyre got put in a bin in the 31st minute and SN Masters on the 32nd minute. So, yeah, you don't see often 2 players on the same team in the bin at relatively the same time very often at all, but it certainly happened in this one, and that definitely didn't help. I mean, that was still in the first half, but coming to the end of that first half, it wouldn't have helped early on in the second half. It is what it is, though. Our young gun Jaden Campbell scored for opening try for the Gold Coast Titans alongside Corey Thompson and AJ Brimson, who scored a miraculous try. Don't know where that one came from, but it was a spectacular try there from AJ Brimson there. And David Fafita scoring the final try in the 35th minute for the Gold Coast Titans before, as I mentioned, heavily collapsed in the second half. Jermaine Asako was perfect with the boot fall from 4 goals converted. So Gold Coast looked to be in control of that first half, but just fell asleep. So I do not know what Justin Holbrook told him at halftime, or in the matter of fact, what Kevin Walters told Brisbane at halftime for him to come back like that. I don't know if that's the biggest comeback in their history, but it would be certainly up there if it was indeed. Now back to this Gold Coast Cowboys game on Thursday night up on the Gold Coast. Without Origin players out, it will be a test for the Cowboys. Without Val Holmes there, Tom Dearden, Nanai, and the others I have mentioned there. But with the addition of Talamala back, that would definitely help the big time there. And same with Gold Coast. They haven't got Barcelona Morale, their captain. And Dave Fafita's also out. So two big bodies in the defensive line there for Gold Coast are out. Connor has said Cowboys 1-6. Look, I'm gonna have to go with the Cowboys as well. I'm gonna say this one by 8 points for the Cowboys. Who knows what's gonna happen there, but yeah, Cowboys for 8 points there. Now for the second match of the weekend, which is the first and only Friday night fixture, we have the Penrith Panthers coming against the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs out at Penrith. So for the Bulldogs, Tavita Pangai Jr. is still on the sidelines after missing the game against the Dragons due to spasms in his back. So hopefully that's all rectified soon. Raymond Fatala Mariner has been promoted to the starting 13, and Corey Waddell goes back to the bench with Ava Cinnamon and Fanai being recalled onto the bench, which means Joe Stimson goes to the reserves. Adokar is playing despite, well, I should say despite, but not being picked for Origin, which is a massive surprise there. But he's playing there, so that's a very good weapon to have there for the Bulldogs. Now, as for the Penrith Panthers, we have got a few changes there with 7 players out due to Origin duty. So this might help the Bulldogs, especially when they still got Josh Adokar there. Who knows what's going to happen? But going through the Panthers team, we've got Sean O'Sullivan in at Nathan Cleary's spot at halfback, with Kurt Falls making his NRL debut at 5'8", with Jerome Luai also out on Origin duty for New South Wales. Robert Jennings and Charlie Staines are in the back line as Steve Crichton and Brian Toto on Origin duty. Chris Smith and Matt Eisenhood coming in for Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo. Api Coruscant was in amongst the reserves for the Blues, but he'll be released to play for Penrith this week. And I've already touched base off the Panthers dominating over the Cowboys in that match. It was just all one-way traffic there. There was no way Penrith was going to get stopped in that match. As for the Bulldogs, well, they come down by 10 points to lose to the St. George Illawarra Dragons, 34 points to 24. Yes, the Bulldogs actually got 24 points against the Dragons, so I don't know if that's a good effort. It's a good effort by the Bulldogs, but to an extent, a poor effort there by the Dragons, who obviously, with the Bulldogs being last on the table, they could have got more points, if not could have defended a lot better than what they did, but it was still enough for them to come home with a 10-point victory there. For the standout corner, he's got Zach Lomax on the Dragons with 1 try assist, 102 run meters, 7 tackle breaks, 5 from 6 goals converted there. And yeah, that beat me to it there. I was going to say Tautau Moga scored for the Dragons, Matt Feeney, Ben Hunt, Lomax, McCulloch, and Blake Laurie gets his first ever NRL career try in game number 94, I believe. So he won near 100 and still hasn't got a first try, but he's gone that now, so he's got that monkey off the back. As for Alex 12, who still has not had a try, and he's over 100 games, so I don't think Alex will be very happy about that to an extent, but yeah, so good effort there from Laurie. And for the Dogs, Avarilla with a double there, Kyle Flanagan and Aaron Schott were the try scorers for the Dogs, and Matt Burton kicking 3 out of 4 conversions and 1 out of 1 penalty goals, and the Dragons are up 16-6 at half time. This was back at the Bulldogs' traditional ground of Belmore. These two sides last met on the Queen's birthday long weekend in June last year, so nearly a year ago to the day, sorry. But for some reason, NRL didn't want to have this on the Queen's birthday this year, but anyway, it is what it is, can't complain. I am victorious in the Sideline Chat co-host cup, so I get it off Connor, who won it in the inaugural season last year as the Bulldogs beat the Dragons on the Queen's birthday long weekend, as I just mentioned there. So I keep it for a year. We haven't officially got anything, but it's unofficial Sideline Chat co-host cup. That's what I'm going to call it there. He's not going to be very happy about that at all. Yes, I did rub it into him when we won the match. So all that banter you heard last week, I come out on top, which I'm very happy about. And hence why Connor is not here this week. Because, like I said, he's too busy crying away and having a national supply shortage on box tissues because they're all at Connor's place because he's crying that much. So if you need a box of tissues, head over to his place and he might lend you some if he doesn't need them all, which, to be quite honest, I think he will need them all. Anyway, jokes aside, please don't assassinate me, Connor, when you listen to this, if you ever listen to it. Anyway, so back to this match. Dragons were in control, and then the Bulldogs did have periods too where they took control, especially in that back early from the second half, or around about that half-time break, as they ran in their 3 tries on 34th, 41st, and 46th minute. So there was that little slight dominance period there for the Dogs, but other than that, they just weren't there at all. And in front of what was a strong crowd at Belmore of 16,991. That's a very, very good effort there for the traditional Dogs home ground at Belmore. And as I said, Dragons just dominated, Dogs weren't there. And I've already touched on the Panthers just dominating the Cowboys there. So heading back onto this match here, without all the Origin players, no Luai, no Cleary, and all the others I had mentioned. No Tyler, no Yo, no Martin, and no Crichton. As for the Dogs, they've got no Origin players. No players out due to Origin. So could we see the Bulldogs knock off I'm not going to say reserve grade side for Penrith because I've still got a fair few of their regular first graders here. But it would help the Dogs a little bit more with all those star players out. Connor has gone the Bulldogs in a 1-6 margin. I mean, they are all but full strength. As for Penrith, they're not. But I'm still going to go with the Penrith Panthers to win this one by 6 points. It's going to be a tight match. It could still be a blowout score. We just don't know what's going to happen there. So Penrith by 6 for me. Connor, Bulldogs 1-6. Now for the first and only Saturday night's game, we have got Manly Seagulls up against the Warriors at 4 Pines Park, which is the traditional name, the name we might say, for the traditional ground of Brookvale Oval. Now, for the Warriors side, we have got Wade Egan and Bailey Sirenen have been named to return, so that's a massive boost for the Warriors. Egan takes over at dummy half from Freddie Lassick, who goes to the 18th man. Bowl Sirenen goes onto the bench at the expense of Dynamis Louis. Rocco Berry is in at centre in place of Aaliyah, while Jack Murchie has been named at lock and will be monitored as due to a head knock. As for the Seagulls, Cherry Evans is out on Origin duty, but in saying that, Mike DePauw, Jason Saab, and Carl Walton are back into the side, so Saab will play his first game this season since round 8, taken over from George DeFua, while Walton and DePauw on the bench. Kieran Foran goes to halfback to replace Cherry Evans. So Josh Schuster moving to 5'8". Dylan Walker is on the bench, just like picking up a knee. and Jake Tavorovich takes over as captain, who was a very surprise exclusion from the Origin side for New South Wales. So don't know what Freddie was thinking there, but very surprised exclusion. But he probably has a method to his madness there. I wouldn't call it madness. The blue squad is very strong indeed, which I probably will touch on because I've kind of already gone through players, so I might as well just say the squads. So let's go with the Warriors game. They went down narrowly to the Newcastle Knights, 16 points to 24. So Newcastle winning that one 24-16 up at Redcliffe. The standout player from Newcastle Knights and for this match from Connor was Jake Clifford, who returned this week with 45 run meters, 1 try assist, 2 tackle breaks, and 4 goals converted. With the try thrown to Tyson Frizzell, Edrickley, and Nari Tuwala with the last 2 tries there. For the Warriors, there was Adam Pompey, Balia, Wateni's losing over 3 try scorers there with Reece Walsh, only 1 from 3 goals converted, but 1 for 1 penalty goal there. The scores were locked up at 12 apiece at half time, so that could have been, it could have gone either way. It still could have gone either way before the game kicked off. Heading into this match, because both teams are, well, Newcastle is still plonked in the bottom of the ladder. But for Warriors have been a bit hot and cold. They are on a losing run at the moment. So they could have won that match, but with the conversion rate being down from the Warriors, that did not help them one single bit. So that will be something they'll be looking to work on heading into this match against Manly. As for Newcastle, well, they just seem to be in control, really. They were just a better side out of these two, and it showed by getting all the points and getting away with a W. I mean, the Warriors were going to be close of coming to somewhat of a comeback, but not enough there. And Marcelo Montoya got put in the benches. That really didn't help their cause at all there. But Newcastle, a victory for the first time in a while, so a bit of pressure is off Adam O'Brien and the team there, but there's still some pressure there considering how well they have been playing for the majority of this season. Not much more to say about that one. That was a close affair. Still a few errors in both sides, which will need to get fixed on, but with the Knights having the week off, they can work on that as well because they've got a bye this week. And now the other match, the Sea Eagles, they went down to Melbourne in Melbourne, 28 points to 8. They were dismal, Manly. Although I can happily say I did tip Melbourne to win, correct. And I also said Storm to win by 20, correct. Not often I get the margin correct, so I'm very happy about that. But yeah, Manly were nowhere. But it is hard to beat Melbourne in Melbourne. The 2 try scorers was George Tafua and Tui Pulutu. And that's pretty much it. No goals were converted there. And the halftime score was 12-4 in favour of Melbourne. And for Melbourne, the tries for Cam Munster, Chris Lewis, Xavier Coates, Cam Munster again, and Kenny Bromwich, with Nick Meaney kicking 4 out of 5 conversions. And speaking of Cameron Munster, that is kind of a standout player for this match. 2 tries, 1 try assist, 149 run meters, and 2 goal-line dropouts. Munster took complete control of that match. He did very, very well. And regardless of what, I mean, Melbourne could have done more. Well, not could have done more. It was surprising they only got 28 points. I mean, they could have really put their foot down and really destroyed Manly there, but they didn't. Well, they still did, but 20 points for Melbourne victory is better than nothing, but we have seen bigger margins, bigger win margins for Melbourne there, but so be it. They'll still be happy with the win, and mainly they'll need to go into this match without Cherry Evans. So let's see how they go then. Who steps up out of Schuster and Kieran Foran? I presume it'll be Kieran Foran, as he's more experienced half than what Josh Schuster is. Schuster, I would say, will be running the ball, and Kieran Foran doing all the goal, all the kicking there. So for this match, Connor has gone saved with 7-12. Well, we know that Tonto Rovic is out for the year for Manly, so they're going to really struggle. But against the Warriors, who'd only come off a narrow loss, this could be a win for the Warriors, but I don't see it this way. I'm gonna say mainly to win this one. Gonna say they're gonna win by. I'm gonna say by 4 points. Mainly to win this one by 4 points. I've got a feeling this one could be a tight contest, and this one could be an upset if the Warriors win. But they still got basically a full strength side, but without Daly Cherry Evans there and Tom Dvojevic. So Manly will still be too strong. So Manly by 4 points to me, and Connor says C equals 7-12. Now for the final game of the weekend, we have got on Sunday afternoon, Canberra Raiders up against the Sydney Roosters. Now, the Roosters will have some mass changes due to Origin. So we've got Joey Manu at fullback to cover for James Tedesco, who is the New South Wales captain, and fullback. And so now that Kevin Nagama is placing Manu in centre, Billy Smith comes onto the wing for Daniel Tupou, who's also out for Origin duty. Lindsay Collins is in the Queensland side, so Takihaho, Mr. Prop, and Tupanua comes into the starting 13. Ethan Butcher is on the bench. Suwali was in the blue squad, but amongst the reserves, so he has been released to play for the Roosters this week. Should he pass concussion protocols? That's one thing we'll have to watch there come Sunday afternoon. As for the Green Machine, these are two massive outs for them, with Jack Whiten out for New South Wales and Papali out for Queensland for Origin. So Matt Froy is at 5'8", alongside Jamal Fogarty for his second game of the season. Yep. Corey Horsburgh is in to start up front with Harold Nara and Trey Mooney on the bench, with James Schiller going to 18th man there. Let's go for the Roosters game first. We have got them victorious over the Sharks, 36 points to 16. They were seriously all one way. Well, what seemed like all one-way traffic there for the Roosters. I think they were up 24-0 at one stage of the match. They were just in absolute cruise control there for the majority of their match. Yeah, it was 20-0 at half time, and Roy Hargraves crashing over on the 49th minute. But then things turned massively with the Sharks scoring 16 unanswered points in that middle part of the game, with Mulatalo on the 55th minute, Sione Katoa on 64th, and Cameron McInnes on the 69th minute. It looked like the Sharkies were going to come back and could potentially beat the Roosters, but yes, there's a but. Joey Manu and Connor Watson crossed another late in the match to seal the victory there. Standout player for Connor was James Tedesco for the Roosters. 1 try, 2 try assists, 238 run moves, 9 tackle breaks, and 2 offloads. Yeah, he had a brilliant game as always, and showed why he's New South Wales captain and fullback. Other try scorers, so Daniel Tupou with opening 2 tries, Nat Butcher, Tedesco as well, and Wawera Hargraves, Marnie, and Watson. 7 tries with Sam Walker getting 4 from 7 goals converted. And as I said for the Sharks, Multoa, Katoa, and McGuinness, with Nico Hines slotting 2 from 3 goals converted. So it would have been a miracle if the Sharks come back and win that match in front of the home crowd at PointsBet Stadium. But those 2 late tries is what put nail in the coffin there for the Sharkies. They tried and tried and tried, but came up short. And just a class difference between the Sharks and the Roosters. Yeah, good. So the Sharks did show signs of what they would, how they had been playing this year, but not a full capacity, like full strength, not full strength side. They didn't go their full, I would say, full energy like they have done so far this year. So what that was the Roosters Sharks game, and the Roosters opposition is the Canberra Raiders. I haven't touched on that game yet. So Canberra Raiders now went down to the Parramatta Eels, 28 points to 20 there in favour of Parramatta. So yeah, as I said, the Eels slipped past Canberra, and that's what I mean by slip past Canberra. They only won by 8 points. But it's a very good contest, this one as well. So there's a few great contests match-wise throughout the weekend for Indigenous round for the NRL. And this was the closing match of the round down in Canberra. And it was a healthy crowd, as always is in Canberra, despite the cold weather they get. Half time, Canberra in front 18 points to 16. They went out into a really good lead. They went 3 tries from Sebastian Chris, Elliot Whitehead, and Sebastian Chris again, with Jamal Fogarty slotting 3 from 3 conversions in his first game back, and a penalty goal in the second half, which was all she wrote for Canberra. In the second half was a penalty goal on the 43rd minute. As for Parramatta, well, there was 3 tries for them as well. 3 out of 5 in the first half, with Will Penisili, Dylan Brown, and Bailey Somerson. To be only 2 points behind, with Mitch Moses missing Bailey Somerson's first try. In the second half, he had Bailey Somerson and Dylan Brown to wrap up the game there. So 5 tries, 4 out of 5 conversions there from Mitch Moses there. Canberra were on track to beat Parramatta and to have another win in the nation's capital this season, but ultimately just fell short. Jamal Fogarty had a good game in his first game back, but that's not kind of standout play because he went with someone from the winning side, which was Parramatta. He went Dylan Brown with 2 tries, 198 run meters, and 10 tackle breaks. He did have a good game there. He showed that he can play to the occasion. I mean, there's no special occasion there, but when he's on, he's on, and the stats don't lie there. Canberra, they'll be disappointed with that loss there, but heading into the game against the Roosters, who have got not as many players, well, origin styles, and a bit all over the place there, they could be within a shout here. Connor has gone to Roosters 1-6. Look, I'm actually going to say Canberra to win this one by 2 points. Canberra could win this one. There's no Tupou, no Tedesco, no Collins. But yes, for the Roosters, but yes, they haven't got White and Papali. But they're more full strength than what the Roosters are. So I'm going to say Canberra to win this one by 2 points in the nation's capital and have back-to-back wins. Nearly back-to-back wins and bounce back from the loss to Parramatta. And the final game I haven't touched on, as both teams aren't playing this week and due to the bye. We have got the South Sydney Rabbitohs downing the West Tigers 44 points to 18. But it then looked that way early on as the Tigers started off very strongly, scoring 2 tries and had the 18 points to 12 lead at the break there. But they just simply fell asleep there. The 3 tries, 4. The Tigers went to Power and Mamalo with a double with Brooks, slotting over 2 from 3 conversions and 1 from 1 penalty goal. As for the home side, there was 8 tries and 6 out of 8 conversions there. Johnston with a hat trick and is now the all-time leading points, all-time leading try scorer for South Sydney. His last try in the 59th minute was the one that put him in front of none other than another great of South Sydney, Nathan Merritt there. So we got a hat trick with Johnson in the first try, followed by Havili with another Johnson try, then Campbell Graham, and then Johnston, which was set up by Campbell Graham because Graham obviously knew he was in line to take the official try scoring lead, and he did that. Cody Walker doubled and Jackson forward round. So Nicarima getting the first 3 goals for South Sydney, and Blake Tuff getting the last 3, so 6 from 8 goals there altogether. So good that Johnson has finally got his record, and who knows if that's going to get beaten, have to wait and see there. But realistically, the Tigers just literally fell asleep in the second half. No other way to put it. Getting 18 points in the first half and then being scoreless in the second is not on. They're letting 6 unanswered tries. That's ridiculous. The defense needed to be massively better. Heading into the bye, they've got the week to recover from that loss. And as for the standout player, Connor has went with Alex Johnston. 3 tries, 131 run meters, and 3 tackle breaks. So yeah, overall, big performance there from South Sydney. Not good for the Tigers at all. So after 12 rounds and halfway through the competition completed, the ladder looks like Penrith, Storm, Cowboys, Broncos, Eels, Roosters, Sharks, Rabbitohs. What a top 8. And at bottom 8, you've got the Dragons, the Raiders, Seagulls, Warriors, Knights, Titans, Tigers, and the Bulldogs are still stuck on the bottom of the ladder. So, who knows what's going to happen in the next half of the season? We have got Origin thrown into the mix with game 1 a week away today, I should say. So then coming late into the year, you got injuries and all the likes there. So you never know what's going to happen. It's a funny game, rugby league in D. So fingers crossed we get a tight finish for the season ending there. Now, State of Origin being a week away today, or a week and a day away, as this part is being recorded on a Tuesday. So we have got a team announcements, and I'll start off with the Queensland side, being the away side. They have announced their full squad of players. So we have got at fullback Kalen Connor for Queensland, with the winners being Selwyn Cobber making his debut, and also Xavier Coates. And the centres being Valentine Holmes and Dan Fago. The halves, they pick themselves a most and Cherry Evans. Lock, we've got Ruben Cotter for up in the we've got Ruben Cotter lock with up front being Sunilali Hunts and Josh Papali and also Kurt Cable and Felix Profusi in the second row. And coming off the bench for this match, we've got Harry Grant in the 14, Lindsay Collins, Jermaine Nanai, and Pat Carrigan, with the extended squad being Tom Dillon, Joe Arrow, Tom Flintler, Hamza Tibuafero, and Murray Talagi. And all those last four players from Dillon down to Talagi are free to play for their respective teams this week. Again, whoever are playing this weekend, which I have already mentioned. And as for the Blues, we have got some few surprises in this side there, which I'll get onto that in a minute there. Well, the Blues have confirmed their lineup for game one, so let's go off that one there. We have got James Tedesco and captain at fullback with Brian Toto and Daniel Tupou on the wings. So Tupou is back in the side with Katoni Stokes and Jack Whiten starting in the centres, which is a very massive surprise there for Jack Whiten to be starting the centres. Pass pairing will like Cleary, that's a given there. We've got Isaiah Yeo at lock with Cam Murray and Tarek Sims in the second row, with up front Payne Haas, Daniel Cook, and Junior Paulo. And on the bench, all game day, we've got Steve Crichton in the 14 jersey, which is a surprise, as Connor and I both thought he would have been in the starting centres alongside Katoni Stokes, but Brad Fittler's got different ideas. Liam Martin, Regan Campbell, and Ryan Madison making his NRL debut. 18th man is Nico Hines. So I thought he would have been in the jersey 14 for this match, but he might be there for game 2 in the jersey 14. Let's have to wait and see how it goes from between this game and the club games between game 1 and game 2. Frizzell, Jacob Safi, Sawali, and Coruscant are all free to play for their clubs this week, which is really only Roosters and Penrith. So Jacob Safi and Sawali are also other names that were making their debut with a name in the squad for the Blues for the very first time. So surprising teams there for the Blues and Queensland, but we have to wait and see there what happens from there. So the teams that have a bye this week, we'll touch more before I get on any further. Connor and I will be doing an Idol special on Wednesday next week, as it will be game number 1 for the series in Sydney. So the teams that the buys this week are Brisbane Broncos, St George, Illawarra, Parramatta, Newcastle, South Sydney, Cronulla, Melbourne, and the Tigers. So only 4 games this week due to Origin. And on that note, that is the end of part number 1 of this week's episode of the Sideline Chat podcast. Like our videos on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel if you are new to this podcast. That's been running for 2 years or 1.5 years now. It's gone quick. And ring the bell to get notifications so you don't miss this upload and any other future uploads there. Our socials are Sideline Chat RL on Twitter and Sideline Chat on Facebook and Instagram. Don't go too far away. I am back with the Challenge Cup final review. Who won? Well, we have to wait and see. And who's going to win in the next round of the league fixtures? Stay tuned to find out.